Working Girl from 1988, starring Melanie Griffith, Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, directed by Mike Nichols. Quick log line: when a secretary's idea is stolen by her boss, she seizes an opportunity to steal it back by pretending she has her boss's job. Not the best log line, but yeah, factually correct, but there's a lot more than just this.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah, I put this movie as my number one because to me this movie signifies the American dream. And the American dream is not all just, bed of roses and peaches for sure, but I think, and it's not going to be easy and it's not going to be without its own costs, but this is still a place that lets you even have that dream, whether that dream is valid or no, whether you would even end up in the dream that you dreamed of, whether you would even like the dream if it came true. Those putting all of that aside, the fact that you can even dream a dream and pursue it, I think is very American and is not, I don't take that for granted. There's a reason why people for centuries have flocked to this place. And despite all the problems that we've been talking about, the government and what all sorts of things, I think this is the only place which has sort of created that kind of framework and foundational structure that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, you can come in here and kind of pursue a life. And we keep evolving our thinking on here. There's forever and will always be dialogue about immigrants and equality and hyphenated citizens and all of that. We'll keep wrestling with that. But as an outsider, I can say this, that this is more of a place where I could come in and find who I am and pursue my dreams than the country I was born in. I've lived in Europe. I've spent time in other places in the world. You know, every place has a lot to offer, but I think this is a singular place that can sort of make you feel mostly at home, and you can pursue what you want to pursue. Is it going to be easy? No, absolutely not. But life isn't easy. No matter where you're at, you're going to be singled out or bullied or put down for
Right.
some reason or the other. But
Hmm.
as compared to everybody else, this place still, kind of supersedes in my mind. And to answer your original question of why I chose to not so much come here, but stay here, is that reason. And I think this movie captures that very beautifully. I think this movie is a great movie about ambition as well, where it doesn't apologize for its ambition, but it really puts you in the point of view of the lead character, which played by Melanie Griffith. On You see the wheels turning, you see what is happening, and you can make your own judgment about, is she right to have this ambition? Is she right to steal, quote unquote, steal the idea, which by the way was her own idea to begin with?
Hmm.
Or is she okay to put her friends and Alec Baldwin on the side to pursue her? You can make your own judgment about that.
Hmm.
And this is kind of the brilliance of Mike Nichols. This is, I think, the brilliance of the script, and I think it's the brilliance of her performance. Like, what a great casting. Like, anybody else in this movie would, I think it'll be hard to kind of navigate this movie. Melanie Griffith is not your typical leading lady.
Hmm.
She's not sort of likable in the classic sense that you would want your leading lady to be, but I think that's what works. Like, you she kind of straddles this line of being ambitious, being flawed, but yet you root for her.
Hmm.
You see there's makeover happening, but it's a much bigger internal makeover, which is sort of coming from within as she's progressing and proceeding. So I just love that. And then it makes broader commentary, especially as you get to the end of, like, okay, you got the office, now what? You're
Hmm.
still a cubicle in the giant building. um and even the bad guy, which is Sigourney Weaver, though a bit of a caricature sort of performance and role, especially towards the end with the crutch and all of that
Mm.
stuff is a little comical. At the same time, she's also just a cog in the wheel. She's also trying to sort of just save her own cubicle. It's on a higher floor, but it's still a cubicle, so, or an office. So
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes that broader commentary on, yeah, you can be in the rat race, you can be ambitious, but where does that actually take you? What is the end to it? And what is the cost of it? Which I think is the flip side of the American dream and growth and capitalism and such. And there are other societies that, maybe tout being at peace with who you are, being more internal, being more grounded, puts those philosophies at a higher plane, perhaps. But what I take away from it is that, you have to make your own choices. It's I'm okay being ambitious, but yet having perspective that this ambition and the meeting of it is not going to solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that just because you end up with the office and the building, you don't act anymore, or you don't even have dreams anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep pushing. You just have to have perspective that that's not the be all end all. There's more to life. You don't have control over everything, even though you may at moments think you do. But I think that's sort of what, to me, how the movie lands. Last thing I would say, great Harrison Ford. Like, Harrison Ford
Oh
is
yeah.
the sex spot eye candy in the movie, and I
Uh-huh.
love that how he's put here, and such a movie star across the board. Like, it's I've been watching a lot of Harrison Ford through our podcast, and
Mm.
I didn't watch a lot of this when it came out, and I just can't imagine this person being in a bajillion franchises, doing movies like this one. What a great career! What a movie star!
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my number one working
Nice.
girl.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I saw actually I never heard of this movie and then saw it in
Oh wow.
college in a film class. Like it
Okay.
just and I was like, oh, okay, what is this? Like I just watched it and was just blown away by how amazing it was. Just across the board, like performances, Mike Nichols, incredible job with directing this
One of
thing.
his best, I think.
Oh, definitely. And I think this is one of the, if not the best encapsulation of this whole idea of the American dream,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of taking it apart too, in the sense of, there's part of the idea with the American dream is, our system is a meritocracy. If you work hard, you can get ahead and succeed. And this movie is saying, actually, no, like she worked really hard. She went to night school. She has all these, but they're like, no, you're the secretary. I don't care how hard you worked. Doesn't matter. You're never going to get promoted. We're not going to
got better jewelry. She even got a haircut.
Right. Totally. And the only way she can get ahead is by cheating and lying and stealing, to climb that ladder, pushing another, there's a lot of gender politics in this, which we don't necessarily have to get into, but she to win as a woman, you have to stab other women in the back. And even Sigourney Weaver's doing the same thing. It's like, there's no sisterhood there, right? She's stealing ideas from Tess. So it sort of then tears that apart of like, well, it's not really a meritocracy. You have to cheat to get ahead. And then it's an individual journey that you're on. And I think the ending of the film, which you hit on, of like that last shot, just absolutely brilliant when it pulls back and it's like, she's just another cog in the wheel. You did all these things to get what? The hollow success that comes with capitalism. But there's also that scene too, when she, calls down to, her old secretaries, and they all cheer and said, oh, she did it. And they're all like, yay. And it's sort of like, it's like one of them got out. Yeah. But it wasn't ever like she's reaching her hand down and saying, okay, great, now I succeeded, so I'm going to start like this program to bring secretaries into the world. Like she's now just another, I think maybe even going to turn into another bad boss like Sigourney Weaver.
Or
like
not.
She could be on that journey.
Or not.
We don't know. But the fact that it was her individual success did not help anyone else around her succeed. It's like one of us escaped. That's great, but we're still toiling down here. And again, that's, I think, a comment on how our system works too, is it's not about individuals then helping and bringing other people up with them. It's like you succeed on your own, and that's it. And that's part of the price of the American dream too. It's not about the collective. It's not about the community. It's about the individual. Very individualistic. So I think that the ending of this film is because again, Mike Nichols is totally brilliant. It's a crowd pleasing moment. that makes you happy for her, but at the same time is so dark and cynical, I feel, especially that last shot. It's just like both sides are being represented there. It's just absolutely brilliant. And why I think Mike Nichols is, just an incredible filmmaker. Anyone else would have just gone with okay, this is a fun success story to show, and it would have been treated as a 100% good thing in terms of what she accomplished, instead of this like, it is good but at what cost question. I also think the opening is just so brilliant too, with the Carly Simon song. You see her like coming across the ferry as like New York immigrants were coming through Ellis Island. It's sort of making that commentary too of like, oh, she's an immigrant from Staten Island to Manhattan to try to make it in the big city, much like people, like you said, for 100 or so years have been coming from around the world to the US to try to quote unquote make it. And that's what I think the movie is trying to say. Hey, she's just a representative of all the immigrants, not just from Staten Island. So I think that is great too. So I just really, I think this movie is fantastic and a great choice for commentary on the American dream.
I'm glad you're so favorable on it. Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorites. I watch it probably once, if not twice, every year. Because and that's the thing, right? What we were just talking about, even though that there's like a darker edge to it, ultimately, if you really, really zoom out, what are we as humans on this planet for anyway? Like, we're going to die. We're going to get plundered by, environmental things or an animal on the street or what have you. So in some ways, what you can really control is your individual path and whatever ambition you have. And yes, it's crowd pleasing, but ultimately that's what you come back for, and because there's something about that of sort of dreaming it, regardless of where the dream puts you and what that cost might be. And then the other thing about sort of the gender dynamics, and we're obviously not, fully suited to have a deep conversation about that, but it made me think, to your point, that all the women who probably made it, or people from minority backgrounds who made it, they had to do this more individually, just like the majority background, classic white male, they did that too. Everybody has to kind of fight their own individual journey. But what changes is when there are more people who made it and there are more examples of people who made it, then the equation changes a little bit. Not to say that those people will build a system to pull the rest of the people up, most likely not. But if you see more people who made it from whatever representation area there might be, that changes the equation, I think, as opposed to if you just see one or two.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess I always think about that as more evidence on a false promise that that the system works. And that I actually think it's dangerous when you start focusing too much on the representation of the few success stories that there are, and ignoring the fact that, the system needs to change. The system needs to be burned down and rebuilt. And that is a way that the people in charge, I feel like, sometimes can mask the inequalities of the system to begin with.
That's the other side of it, for sure.
So it's like, I think this movie plays with both those things so well. And which is why I think this movie is so great, because it works on both those levels, depending on kind of what mood you're in. If you just want to enjoy the ride and the success, that you can feel happy for Tess and be like, or if you're approaching it more in a serious, more like maybe cynical mood, you can look at this movie as a biting, commentary on the destructiveness of the American dream and the false promise, and how it, is actually a really bad thing.
Hence a masterpiece, and will always sort of be evergreen.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.